township meeting is being videotaped in the back. Everyone please rise to pledge allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, in accordance with Resolution 2012, Scott Stilson is in the back corner, live streaming tonight's meeting. Thank you, Scott. And we actually are going to move the agenda around slightly.
Tracy, since we don't have a current, and we would need them, I would think, for those two items.
Yeah.
We have one.
Now we have one. I was just going to suggest reports, but now you've got it.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, you can still move those things around.
Okay, so
Show.
we're going to, as part of the new business, part of the agenda, we're going to move item number 2 to the front and then item 3 behind that. Let's go over the announcements. Public hearing. Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 8?
I make a motion to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and then departmental reports. Don in our back right-hand corner is our Public Works Director.
Yes, what I had to report tonight is we probably have about a day and a half of paving on Park Road yet. If we can get past the blacktop plant breaking down and all the rain that we've been getting. Probably about 2 days of fixing the berms up on it, getting the lines painted, and it'll be done, ready to go. We've got a little paving to do on Morgantown Road. I hope we get that done by the end of the month. And other than that, then it'll probably be just cleaning some ditches here and there where we have water problems and get ready for winter.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Christie, administration.
So as you all know, we've had a lot of rain recently, and this has affected the plans for Harmony Day. Harmony Day itself is still going forward as planned, rain or shine, hurricane or no, on Saturday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. in the Borough Park and other places around the township. The carnival portion will be all day Saturday, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. If anybody purchased a wristband for the discounted rides on Wednesday or Thursday already, they will be honored on Saturday. And I believe there are still some wristbands available, so if you are a bargain hunter, you can go to a couple of locations around the township and borough to pick those up for $20. The information is on our website, also on our bulletin board outside. Or you can go to hbpartnership.org for all the information. There was also a map that was printed in the Tri-County Record. They fell out of some issues, I heard, but I have a copy here, and I will be happy to make copies for anybody who needs that. And I guess the Park and Rec, have they made a decision on moving? Or are we gonna wait? That's a game time decision? Okay. So Coco hopefully will be shown in the park at 7:30 p.m., but if it is raining, it will be next week. Same time, just 1 week later. One other item of news. Today's issue, or this month's issue of Township News arrived today, and there's a 10-page article in there that summarizes the workshop that Louise and I gave. Louise is quoted extensively, and some of our more colorful anecdotes about addressing issues of the township are quoted in here, so if you'd like to take a look, you are welcome. And Louise is just tickled that her name is in a red box at the end for any questions. Call Louise, so hopefully her voicemail box will fill up with lots of good questions. And that is all I have.
You also say on the PSAC side,
When I looked, they only had a truncated version, but I think that's because it hadn't arrived in mailboxes yet.
Okay.
So it might be on the PSAT site by now.
Thank you. Okay, up next would be Steve Landis, our Township Manager.
And I just want to report on the
meeting that the study committee for the Recreation Parks, Open Space and Trails Committee had just a week ago, September 5th. They met with the consultants for the first time and had a good exchange of information. And a couple of things that came out of that meeting, I'd just like to touch on. There's going to be an open house here in the township meeting room on Wednesday, October 3rd, between 6 and 8 p.m. And we're asking for residents to come into the open house, come in anytime. You're going to be able to talk to consultants or to members of the study committee. We'll have some displays here. And what we're trying to do is gather information about what people want, whether it's recreation programs, whether it's park facilities, and what age groups they'd like us to address. So we're gathering information from the community to help with the planning process. So if you're interested, please come here October 3rd between 6 and 8 p.m. Another opportunity to provide information for the plan will be a survey. And the survey is going to be available, we expect, on October 3rd. And information can either be supplied by a link from our website, so you have the opportunity to do an electronic survey, or if you don't have that capability, call into the office and we'll get you a paper copy, and you can just fill it out and return it here. Either way, we want your feedback, and that'll help immensely with getting, really what the community wants rather than us all guessing what the community wants. So, like I said, a couple opportunities there for you to make this, let us know what you want for the future parks, recreation, and trails in the township.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, item number 4 would be Land Preservation Committee. Do we have anybody here from Land Preservation?
I don't know, nobody's here tonight.
Do they have any?
Well, I know at the coming meeting, they're going to be discussing the update of the land preservation plan. And that was the plan that you just all received by last week. So we'll be talking about that in October. They might have some final revisions or whatever to talk about in this meeting, and if they do, we'll make sure that they get them to.
Thank you. Okay, 5 would be Parks and Rec, which would be Christie again.
In addition to the movie coming up, I've not been able to get any updates on harvest from the garden. Not surprisingly, it's been either too hot or too wet. So I don't have any updated numbers on the raised garden bed, but we're using the compost bin quite a bit.
Thank you. And Planning Commission would be next.
The only thing I have to report is the upcoming agenda. We do have a number of plans that are going to be on the agenda for this coming month. We have a subdivision plan for Christian Fisher on Cambridge Road. It's a small subdivision of 2 lots, 2 10-acre lots. We have a lot add-on plan for Stolzfus, that's on Cambridge Road. And we also have Edge of the Brook, the Lou Frame property reconfiguration of lots within both the borough and the township for review. We'll be reviewing those, issuing review letters to the Planning Commission to discuss those items later this month.
Okay.
Bob, did you have anything?
I think I already know.
Okay. Yeah, Terry, did you have anything?
No.
We had a submission today for a variance in a conditional use application, so those will go on the agenda as well.
Okay.
And then we have Levi on the other side.
Yes.
Do you have anything? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, next would be an open forum. Anyone on the right-hand side have anything they'd like to say?
Okay, hi. I was wondering what the township's plans are for communicating about the spotted lanternfly to, inform the residents what everyone needs to be doing. I don't have any tree of heavens on my property, but I've seen 6. And try to kill them if I can. I was only able to kill 3, definitely 2. And I've been checking since last fall for the egg casings, and I've also thought businesses that do state inspections, maybe they could be recruited to also check underneath car carriages, and we can all check our wheel wells for the egg casings, which supposedly start coming out in November. So I know on your website there's a little, but there's really, and I saw primaries, there was a sign over there, but I don't know if anybody went over there to read it, or if it was, on the easel over there during the primaries. People were directed.
Yeah, we do have a person who has some expertise on that, on the plan and the land preservation, Susan Lacey. And we haven't really published anything.
It was in this past newsletter,
Yeah.
actually, 2-page informational. Yeah.
Okay.
There is a quarterly newsletter that we put on.
Yeah.
No, it's by annual. It's
Right.
Biannual, I'm sorry.
It's not enough.
Yeah, maybe I didn't open it. I usually do, but it might be in a pile.
There's some things you can't.
Yeah.
And there was a advisory about the Penn State games, check the vehicles and stuff, because they're afraid of
Yeah.
going up there and infecting other parts of the state.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
It goes after the fruit trees primarily.
Yeah, well, I've know someone that lives in Shillington, and they're inundated with them, and
Yeah.
it's like the black walnuts, and besides the tree of heavens, obviously, he has red maples. Just, he said his lawn is like a graveyard of the lantern flies, and they're just like all over his trees.
Yeah. That is a very bad problem.
Yeah, this information is found on our Land Press page, and it does reference the state resources. There is a phone number if you want to call in to report a sighting or gather any other information. There's a website for the Department of Ag there as well. You can click on that. So if you like, I can give you a copy of the newsletter that has the information that we have. And you can, all that information is there as well.
Well, I've looked, but just to get it, to keep communicating it over and over to the public, because I don't think.
You saw those brochures? The brochures, they're all on the table?
Oh, yeah, I think there might be some left.
Yeah.
Not, that means everybody took it, but I'll check it out.
Okay.
Thank you, Barb, for the reminder there.
Okay.
Does anyone on the other side of the room have anything they'd like to say? Or to come? Okay.
I would like to know exactly what the process is if somebody would call in a noise complaint about a local business. What exactly is the process?
And what happens if you call it a complaint? The township staff would take down the information. You may choose to remain anonymous. You may choose to provide us with your name and contact information. Either way, we're not going to tell anybody who filed the complaint. The next step would be for the township staff to forward that complaint to Technicon, to Mike's office, where a zoning officer is going to go out and determine whether or not there is a problem at the business. If there's found to be a problem, then a letter sent to the business to tell them what the problem is and how to rectify that, and to provide them with a certain amount of time to do that. So that's really the process that we go through. And we would follow that and follow up with that until either there's some conclusion that the problem has been resolved, or at the last resort, we take the company to district court.
So in the process, You call them on Monday, how soon would they get a letter? How soon would anybody come out and check that business for that specific complaint?
Probably a week before somebody gets out to check the business. And, you know, I don't know all the particulars of the complaint. It could be somewhat complex. What you're talking about, it could be very easy to figure out what's going on. But after that, there's been some analysis and a determination that a problem does exist. I mean, if the determination is that, no, we cannot tell that a problem exists, that would conclude the file, and we'd let you know that. Or if they determine that, yes, the problem exists, then probably within another week, the letter would go out.
Is the person that complains about it always notified to the conclusion?
When there is a conclusion, yes. I mean, and if you file a complaint, you can always call in at any time and say, you know, where are we with this item?
I don't always get a call back. Message after message, I never get a response. If I call.
Oh, give me a call, give me
Somebody's
a
not
call
here.
tomorrow.
I've called you several times. Several times, and I've never ever gotten a response for years.
Well, the policy
I
to make
called
calls
back.
has been put into place, I guess, last year, and we will call you back, and I think if you filed a recent,
Last Thursday, I did.
yeah, that's not even, we don't even know
Okay, that's fine, that's why.
whether or not it's a legitimate complaint yet.
Oh, it's legitimate.
Well,
It's,
we don't know that, the zoning officer hasn't determined that yet.
I mean, I called Technicon, left message after message, I've never gotten a reply.
Well, they
Never
shouldn't
gotten
be
a call back.
responding to your calls,
Then maybe somebody should tell me that.
you know. That's for the office to do. They're our contractor, and we use them when we need them.
If are you?
See, if you're calling in and making phone calls, you're ringing up our bill, that's why they're not supposed to be answering calls. They're our contractor, they charge us when they're doing work for the township.
Well, I've called here a couple times.
Mhm.
I'll give you an example. We got a letter in the mail for some kind of violation for our house.
Mhm.
We're trying to figure it out. My husband stopped in here to speak to somebody, never a call back. I called here about noise complaints about this particular business quite a few times. At one point, I was told to call Technicon. If I'm calling Technicon, I shouldn't be calling them, then Technicon.
The staff shouldn't be telling you that.
Absolutely,
The
absolutely.
staff should not.
I've talked to you several times.
Okay.
But when I call Technicon, somebody there should be saying, you have to go to the township. You can't call us directly. How would I even know that it's Technicon to call? Unless they're telling me to call them.
Joe, they should not be telling you to call about a complaint.
But it's been years now that I've been complaining about this. Years. 6 years probably, between me and a couple of the neighbors.
Well, I do know that we received a recent call, and we'll follow up. Like I said, we don't even know what the outcome of that has been. If I had to guess at this point, which is probably not a good thing to do, there was probably a letter already generated saying, oh, by the way, you know, these are the rules and regulations, please adhere to them. That's probably going out. But I'll check.
That's what I'm told every time.
Yeah, do we had for the next month's old business, so that we can announce that we've had a solution or some update?
Well, the issue is we don't want to talk about specific locations.
Right.
So I'd rather not put that on your
When
business.
someone comes in to let the audience know that there was a follow-up, and someone comes in here directly to say that they're having a problem with the complaint process, that we are coming back the following month and saying that there was a resolution to that.
I'm not here to call out the business. I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna publicly.
No, that's why I said we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's
No.
not gonna come from me.
No.
But I just want answers. I want a
Sure.
resolution to the constant.
And we just have your name for the record.
Teresa Crow.
Right.
And I think you
And
talked.
I will let you know whether or not what we have done with Mrs. Crow's complaint.
Several complaints
Yeah.
over several years.
anyone else on the left-hand side have anything they'd like to say? All right, then, like I said, we are gonna change the agenda around slightly, and we're gonna go right to item 2, which is the Northwestern District County Municipal Authority. And Kristen Camp is here.
Thank you. I'll be quick. I represent the Northwestern County Municipal Authority. I'm going to pass out just sort of an outline and then provisions of your existing claims of code. Not expecting you to take read this as I'm going on, just so you have it. I think it was helpful for me. To go through it and just see that I was actually really pleased you have all the regulations that the authority would want you to have in your code already. There's just been a little bit of disconnect, I think, mainly with the issues came up with the mobile home parks. And the situation there is because the mobile home parks, when the authority was created in 1975, they were on private systems. They ultimately connected into the authority system. They're old systems, and they need to be replaced. There's infiltration and inflow, mainly Valley View to report, and in dealing with making those repairs, there's been sort of a disconnect as to who's doing what, and I just want to make sure everyone's on the same page. We're clearly knowing who's supposed to be inspecting what and how those inspections are going to be paid for. So that was sort of what prompted wanting to come. I thought I would just go through a couple other, sort of outline things. Obviously, I don't know how much you know about the municipal authority. I think it was helpful for me to go back, and I just started to represent the municipal authority a year ago. It was created under the Municipal Authorities Act, which is the state legislation. Huntingburg Borough and Huntingburg Township jointly agreed in 1975 to create the entity. It owns a wastewater treatment facility, which is located at 37 Damon Road. That treatment facility is an aerated lagoon system. The authority also owns sewer pipes and pumping stations within Huntingburg Borough and Huntingburg Township that provide public sewer to approximately 750 users in Huntingburg Borough and about 1,400 users in the township. Right now, the authority charges a flat rate to residential users, $125 a quarter, commercial users based on gallonage. The authority has its own rules and regulations, and this is something that's sort of a living, breathing document, and I want to make sure that you guys have a copy of it, the most current version on file here, which is on our problem, to make sure that we're communicating with you and keeping you up to date as these rules are being revised. And for example, the authority's engineer, Ed Spade from HRG, oftentimes will say there's a more current methodology or different type of building sewer. He wants that specification to be a part of the authority rules and regulations, which then we want the township and the borough to adopt. So we need to make sure that we give you, and at the next meeting, the authority will have a resolution adopting the most recent rules. So we'll get that to you. We'll make sure your solicitor has it. We'll make sure Technicon has it. So if anybody in the township comes in and says, I need to understand what the rules are to connect to public sewer, you'll have available either on your website or in paper copy for them to have. So we'll do that. The authority under the Municipal Authorities Act does have the ability to enforce its own rules and regulations, but it's never done so. It's never taken anybody through a summary criminal citation process to the district court. I actually contacted about 4 or 5 other solicitors of municipal authorities to see if anyone else had ever done that. And you don't really see that. You really typically see the municipalities that have created the authorities that have sewer regulations in their code books. They typically are the ones that enforce the authority's rules and regulations because you have adopted those as your own sewer laws. So that is currently in your code. The next part that I wanted to go through was what your current sewer regs are. They're in Chapter 18 of the Township Code, and as I said, they're really good. You've adopted all the authority rules and regulations as those get amended as your regulations. So if somebody's violating the authority rules and regulations, they're in violation of the Huntingburg Township Code, and you have violation of penalty provisions in your Chapter 18 that if you so chose, your enforcement agents could file summary criminal enforcement matters for the district court. Again, these are in extreme situations. I mean, usually there's not problems. We have had problems at the mobile home parks where it was, mobile homes were being taken out, new ones being put in, and the authority was advised of the fact, or it did inspections and knew that the system that they were being connected to was not tight, and they were not consistent with the authority rules and regulations. When mobile homes were removed, there was no inspection done. The sewers were not capped, so there's obviously water getting in, getting into the system, which ends up costing all the users more money. So it's in everybody's best interest that we make sure that the rules that are in place are being followed. And so we, as the authority, want to make sure we're doing our part, and we would like the township to also participate and cooperate to the extent that you can. So I set forth again, just sort of, I attached to this outline the various provisions that you already have in your township code. You have very good enforcement provisions. You have the ability for you to perform inspections, or your code department to perform inspections, your consultants, and you've given that authority, you've delegated that authority also to the actual authority to the extent they want to perform inspections. The authority does have 2 employees. Derek, I think, is one of them that's here tonight. Bruce Bolich, obviously, is the main operator. And we also have a consulting firm. Just like you have Technicon, we use HRG. If HRG goes out to perform inspections, then that has to be paid for by the property owner. So we're not gonna, the users of the sewer system shouldn't have to pay that one bill. It should have to go back to who's ever requiring an inspection. The other thing that you have, and I know we had worked with your solicitor's office and we appreciate your cooperation, they had sent a recent email suggesting sort of a new policy that before something, a permit gets issued or a building is connected, that you make sure that it's inspected. So if the township's position is that we don't want to do any inspections with regard to sewers, we want the authority to do that, then we need to make sure there's good communication with the issuance of those permits. So for example, in a situation where a mobile home is being taken off, which in your mobile home regulations, you do require a removal permit, the authority needs to know that that permit's been issued, or that actually even sooner than that an application has been filed for the removal of a mobile home. We're notified of that. We make sure that we're in contact with the owner then to do the proper inspection and make sure that the sewer line's capped. In this instance where a mobile home is coming in, again, if you're issuing a permit for that, we need to know that. We need to have copies of that. So we would ask that we be copied. The authority administrator is there Monday through Thursday. She can receive those emails and know, and then we can make sure we have the proper inspections being done. Again, it's the township's position that they don't want to be doing any inspections. You already have in your zoning ordinance, and it's something that I found as I was going through this, Section 27-1904 says that no permit should be issued until you're certifying that the proposed use complies with the authority rules and regulations. So you already have it. You don't have to add anything to your codes. You also have that no building or structure should be occupied. No use and occupancy for something new should be issued until, again, there's a verification that the lines have been inspected and that they're in compliance with the authority's rules and regulations. So we're just asking to make sure that before permits are issued, either at the outset, or before use and occupancies are issued, before somebody can actually occupy it, that we've confirmed that those lines have been inspected and are in compliance with the authority's rules and regulations. If the township, again, doesn't want to be the one doing those inspections, we need to be notified so that we can properly plan to have those inspections conducted.
Thank you. This is very helpful, I think, in just laying it out so that both sides understand what the rules are. On the practical side, I just want to confirm that the authority is prepared to do those inspections if the township, in the administration of these rules that we've been discussing tonight, it notifies the authority that a permit has been applied for use and occupancy in mobile home park, for example, but we're not going to issue that permit until we receive some written confirmation from the authority that the sewer collection system from the outside of the mobile home structure to the point where it connects with your dedicated public main has been inspected and approved by the authority representative. Is the authority willing to undertake that work and to provide that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're not totally clear why the process changed. Because before I got involved, I think even up until there was emissions of Valley View, the township was doing those inspections. At least that's what I thought.
Yes.
They were never done.
Okay, well, then that's surprising because then you have rules and regulations that said those inspections were going to be done or you're going to be notifying the authority. So that's fine, that's part of it. I think, Bill, we're comfortable to do that. We had to make sure our rules and regulations were typed up to make it absolutely clear that the authority had the authority to do that, has the manpower to do it, and then sets the fee schedule in place. So yes, I believe we are. Again, it just requires good communication between the parties, but we will do it.
Because, I agree 100%. It appears that there has been some misunderstanding, because what I've been consistently hearing from the township is that the township has not done those inspections in the past. So, in any event, we need a clear path going forward, and it sounds like we do have an understanding that when permit applications are received by the township will not issue those permits where there is a connection to the authority's sewer system until we receive confirmation from the authority that an inspection has occurred and that the inspection was satisfactory to the authority and the authority standards.
Yes.
And if we proceed that way, I think, we should eliminate this misunderstanding that we've been experiencing. Are there any questions from the township side about how we're going to proceed?
Yes, if I understand that once a mobile home is going to be disconnected or removed, then that has to be capped. So when the new person comes in, the new home comes in, then the authority has to come in and check that line before the new one comes in. Is that
Both the removal of the mobile home and when a new one comes in, to see that the connection is properly made. So they're both on.
okay?
Yeah.
Do we have that removal process? I mean,
You
is
do,
there-
it's, well,
There
it's in
is
your
no
code.
removal process.
Okay. Okay, so what we would, there is a removal application though, which is summary. Essentially, we look to see if there are any unpaid taxes, is that
That's
right?
right.
Okay. But with what we're discussing tonight then, sounds like when a permit application for that removal is received by the township should not issue that removal permit until, well, the removal is for the permission. So it's a little awkward.
Yeah, and that's in 14-106, you specifically call out that it should not be removed until you have that removal permit, and your fee schedule does have a $25 removal permit fee.
It's $2.
Well, it doesn't matter, the
No,
fact.
but I mean, the permit is $2.
Yeah.
The sole purpose for the permit is to check whether or not taxes were paid.
Well, I don't agree with you that the sole purpose of the permit is that. The sole purpose of the permit is to make sure you comply with your chapter 14, which specifically talks about making sure it's consistent with all of your rules and regulations, which you've adopted the authority's rules and regulations. So it's critical to make sure that it's done properly and that the sewers are capped. Otherwise, there's water getting in and it's causing harm.
What we're gonna have to do is to do our tax review, which we have been doing, and direct the applicant for that permit to obtain from the authority an inspection of the disconnection and capping of the sewer connection before we issue the permit. And then on the reinstallation of the new unit, we will not issue the occupancy permit until there's been confirmation from the authority that an inspection has occurred that's been satisfactory to the authority. So I think that's the protocol that we need to follow in order to satisfy the authority regulations that the township is committed to enforce.
Thank you. I just have one other question, and it's really for Technicon. So obviously when land development gets done, you're already doing all the inspection and infrastructure. When a home actually goes to be built though, and there's a building permit issued, is there anything that the township is doing to see the connection between the home or the commercial structure to where the authorities lines are? There is no inspection like that, okay.
We cover everything inside the building.
Okay, so anything outside the building now, we have to make sure we,
Because it's your rules and regulations,
Got it.
that lateral depth.
just want to make sure that
We
was.
will follow the same procedure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And the only other thing, you've already adopted this as a resolution last year, that when we have liens that are filed, we will send copies now to the township so that you, under the Neighborhood Blight Reclamation Act, that if there are any delinquent sewer accounts, that the permits will be issued. I think you've been following that, we appreciate that. So, is there anything else, Bill, that?
Well, the only question I had was, with a removal permit, you charge $2 to make sure taxes are paid, you should make sure the sewer and water bills are paid too. Because if they owe us $500, we don't have a lien on it, if they take the trailer out, leave die, we're out of money, which means the rest of the ratepayers are picking that up. I mean, we deal with UNOs. You get a sewer cert, says, yes, your sump pumps are right, this is right, and your bill's paid. Here, get your permit. It ought to be the same way.
Well, do you know, Kristen, if the regulations provide that you can't connect if you owe money even though there's not a lien?
No,
Yeah.
and I'd have to check to make sure that we can do that and we can approve that. But we can, yeah, we can look at that.
Yeah, I don't think we have that loop closed yet, but it's a good issue.
It is a good thing to think about, yeah. Thank you for your time. I think hopefully we cleared this up, and again, we really appreciate your solicitors working with us, and thank you.
Have a good night.
Thanks.
Yeah, so we're skipping it over to item 3 of Steve Lab minor subdivision plan.
My name is Jeff Whitmire with Impact Engineering Group. Here to discuss the Steve Lap minor subdivision plan. Subject property is located at 2804 Thomas Road. It's on Route 10. Just for reference, the southern property boundary is actually the municipal boundary in Honeybrook, West Carroll Township. The subject tract is actually comprised of 3 parcels. They are all listed under the same deed. The total acreage is 18.13 acres between the 3 parcels. I just have a color code sheet here to make it a little more clear as to what's going on here. But as I said, there's 3 existing parcels. This red parcel here is currently developed. There's a single family dwelling and several accessory structures located on that property. The green parcel here is a vacant wooded flag lot, and then there's also a landlocked parcel out to the east, which is identified in orange. The property is located in the rural conservation zone. And basically, the intent of the plan is to shuffle around some lot lines to condense the 3 parcels into 2 properties. There'll be a property to the north, which is after subdivision will be 13-acre parcel. Parcel to the south will be a flag lot. That'll be a 5-acre parcel. The intent of the plan is to construct a new driveway on what we are calling Lot 1, which will be shared to provide access to a proposed dwelling, barn, shed. On Lot 2, there'll also be a new ag accessory structure that's constructed on Lot 1. This one, we're pretty far along in the process. The most recent letter received from Technicom was dated August 30th. We did get PC's recommendation for conditional approval at their meeting last month. And there's just a few items that are left in Technicom letter which we have an issue with.
Right, and a lot of these are administrative items, and like Kevin said, the planning commission did recommend conditional approval. We would have no objection with that. A lot of these items are providing financial security, entering into O&M agreements for the stormwater system, getting sewage planning approval, NPDS permit, those types of things. So we would certainly have no objection to a conditional final plan approval based on the review letter of August 30th.
Yeah.
Any questions from the board?
I guess we can put that up for a vote.
Okay, do I hear a vote for approval? All in favor?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you. Thank you for that one. your agenda.
Sure.
Good evening. Thanks.
Okay, next we'll go back to, starting with the
Oh, here?
public hearing.
Okay, thank you very much. This is the time and place that's been advertised for a public hearing concerning the proposed Honeycrook Township 2018 zoning ordinance amendment. As required by state law, this public hearing was advertised in the Daily Local News on August 28, 2018, and September 4, 2018. This hearing is a condition under the law before the Board of Supervisors can consider the enactment of the amendment to the Township zoning ordinance. Prior to this hearing, the draft ordinance was reviewed by the Township Planning Commission and by the Chester County Planning Commission, also as required by state law. What we are trying to show on the overhead, thank you. Very good. What we are showing on the projection here is a copy of the current zoning map of the township showing the current zoning districts. And next to that is a map showing the proposed zoning districts that would correspond to the new zoning ordinance. And the version that is on the right is the existing zoning map of the township. The version that is on the left is the proposed zoning map. The zoning districts on the new zoning map are substantially similar to those which exist in the current zoning map. The largest zoning district in the current map is the agricultural district of the township, and that district continues to be designated as the agricultural district in the proposed map on the left. There is also a band of dark green at both the north and south ends of the township. Under the existing map, that is the township's resource conservation district. That same area continues to be designated as the resource conservation district in the new zoning map on the left. In addition to those two districts, which are the majority of the acreage in the township, under the old zoning ordinance or zoning map, there is a C commercial district. That C commercial district has now been divided into three separate new zoning districts, something called a mixed-use residential district, a mixed-use commercial district, and a neighborhood residential district. There is also under the old zoning map something called an I industrial district, which is now named the business industrial district. Under the old zoning map, there is something called the farm residential district. That is designated under the new zoning map as the neighborhood residential district. Under the old zoning map, there is something called the residential district, which is now divided between the mixed-use residential district and the mixed-use commercial district. In the old zoning map, there's something called mixed residential, which is now part of the mixed-use residential district. There is significant carry forward from the old zoning map and the uses to the new zoning map, but there are, it is not entirely the same. Part of what the new zoning ordinance in the text that accompanies the zoning map does is to clarify and enhance some of the natural feature protection standards in the zoning ordinance. There are some revisions of regulations related to kennels in accordance with the recommendations of the township's kennel task force. There are also a shift of quite a few uses that had been treated as conditional uses requiring a zoning hearing before the Board of Supervisors to be special exception uses, which are allowed pursuant to a zoning hearing in front of the zoning hearing board instead of the Board of Supervisors. There are some amendments to the sign regulations to minimize certain recurring variance requests that have occurred under the old zoning ordinance. The ordinance also addresses some new requirements under state law regarding medical marijuana. There is a dispensary use added in the commercial district of the township. There's a grower processor use added to the business industrial district. And there are requirements for each of those uses included in the zoning ordinance. The use and occupancy permit requirements relating to sewer and water approvals by the authorities in the township are carried forward into the new zoning ordinance. There are updates regarding wireless communication facilities to address mini cell towers, which again is something which has become a need for regulation in the current environment that did not exist when the current ordinance was originally drafted. There are also changes to remove from the zoning ordinance the noise regulations that exist there to eliminate conflict with the separate noise ordinance that the township already has, so that in order to have consistent enforcement, the regulation of noises will be under the noise ordinance rather than under the zoning ordinance. There have also been revisions and additions of many new definitions of uses that the consultant that worked with the township recommended to provide more guidance on how the ordinance is to be interpreted and administered. The flood hazard district regulations were removed from the zoning ordinance, like the noise regulations. Those are now in a separate freestanding ordinance. Also, there were revisions to clarify accessory apartment and dwelling use regulations. The general reason for the zoning ordinance amendment is to incorporate recommendations that were included in the multi-municipal comprehensive plan that was adopted in 2015 among the township and Honeybrook Borough, and it is a required practice after a new comprehensive plan is adopted by a municipality that the municipality update its zoning ordinance to take into account the recommendations of the updated comprehensive plan. The Borough of Honeybrook is undertaking the same process that the township has in adopting a revised and updated zoning ordinance based on that same joint comprehensive plan. So that is an overview of the process and project that has been undertaken. And at this time, I would ask if there's any public comment on the draft zoning amendment that is under consideration by the township. Yes, ma'am. Can you identify yourself for the record?
Deb Donovan. I'm sorry? Deb Donovan. D-O-V-A.
Do you want to come up to the microphone so we can better hear you? Thank you.
I'm speaking on behalf of my parents, Paul G. Dubin. The parcel numbers 22-07-0092.02, and also parcel number 22-07-0092.01A0 on Cambridge and Park Roads, consisting of over 29 acres. I'm here to request that they're requesting the same type of zoning as when they purchased the property. When the zoning was changed, this current zoning greatly devaluated their property. So we're requesting it to go back to the value they had when they purchased the property. The parcels were purchased under residential zoning, thus having the value consistent with residential land value. Your current zoning has greatly devalued their land by placing the parcels in agricultural zoning. The immediate neighboring properties remain in residential zoning. Our land borders the residential zoning. Zoning greatly impacts the value of a property. For example, if somebody buys land for $200,000 residential, and all of a sudden the zoning changes to ag, that land value goes way down. Okay, $200,000 residential piece of land, at ag value, make it down to $20,000. It's a huge decrease in the value of your land. We're requesting that our land be returned back to the residential type zoning to maintain the value we once had. We're requesting it be changed to the neighborhood residential zoning, which would allow us to continue in agriculture, but still maintain our property value. And we should have never been knocked down in value. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we just confirm, are they still in the ag district? Is that,
Still ag, we're ag, yeah.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment that anyone wishes to offer? I see no indication of that. At this time, I would recommend to the board that the board closes the public hearing. Is that acceptable? Okay.
Excuse me, are you closing everything for the night?
No, this
Oh,
is
okay.
just regarding the zoning amendment public hearing.
Okay.
So do you have any comments on the zoning ordinance amendment?
No.
Okay.
I just didn't want to miss an opportunity.
That's just, I didn't want to do business. Look up. On the agenda.
All right. So the board has agreed to close the public hearing. So at this point, all of the legal process necessary in preparation for consideration of action on the draft ordinance has been completed. The ordinance has been advertised for consideration of enactment tonight. So if the board wishes, you can now consider action on the proposed ordinance.
Do I hear a motion to approve the ordinance for enactment?
I'll make the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
That completes our activity on that matter.
Okay. Item 4 is a motion to approve or not to approve the payment of all invoices prepared by the treasurer. Do I hear a motion to approve the payment of invoices?
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor? Item 5 would be the motion to approve or not approve the 12 financial security releases as recommended by Technicon, that's items A through L. Do I hear a motion
Make a motion to approve.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item number 6 would be other new business. Okay, and then we would go then for open forum. Is anyone on this side of the room have anything they'd like to discuss?
In an open forum?
Open forum, yes.
Okay, yes, I do. I live in the Deer Run, a manufactured home community, which I live right behind a business that is constantly disrupting our sleep, our daily routines, and I don't know if I'm permitted to say the name of this business, so we can get on the same page, or?
We can certainly take the information after the meeting if you'd rather not have it.
Well,
The problem that we're having is, there's been complaints, okay, that we are woken up at 4 in the morning, okay, with the vehicles in the back banging and bulldozers and whatever they're doing back there. It shakes our house, it wakes us up, and the complaints don't seem to be getting addressed. So we don't know where to go. We don't know where to turn. We don't know who to talk to.
right,
Is this the same complaint as Mrs. Crowe?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm Mrs. Crow's neighbor,
Okay.
and I live, actually, I'm a little closer to them by a few feet. But I mean, like, what she's stating is correct. And, you know, it's just not fair. When it was first announced to us, that place was supposed to be, they were supposed to grow trees for erosion purposes. And we were like, nobody addressed it because they're like, oh, that'd be a good thing. They're gonna grow trees, to put somewhere that they're needed, great. Nobody intended for what's going on back there now. And I mean, it's just, we don't know what to do. You know, and when it comes time to sell your house, that's going to take a big, you know, people are not going to want to buy your house once they hear that. I mean, this stuff happens from sometimes 4 in the morning, and I'm home most of the day where they work. So I hear it constantly. But we just don't know what to do about it.
Well, we are going to respond to Mrs. Crowe in the next month. And would you agree to share this information with your neighbors?
Share what, oh, that you guys are going to,
No, whatever information we give you about our investigation.
oh yeah,
plan.
there
Would
be
you
more
be
neighbors.
willing
that
to do
are
that? Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm also, I mean, if you guys want to come and visit our homes and sit on the back deck and just listen, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, I wouldn't be here if.
Now, is this going on throughout the day?
It goes on throughout the day. It even happens, like, I know there's supposed to be some kind of ordinance that says that they're not supposed to do it like on a Sunday. They've been back there doing stuff on Sunday. You know what I mean? And I understand that they're a business, but they don't take into consideration anybody's living behind that place. And it's not what we thought that it was going to be in the beginning. We thought that they were growing trees for erosion purposes and that would help the environment. That's great. But I mean, you know, 4 o'clock in the morning, it sounds like, you know, these shipping containers, it sounds like one of those empty and someone just threw it down the street. And it just boom, 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 boom. And your house just shakes. You know, and I know my house is somewhat larger than theirs, lengthwise. It's on 52 concrete footers that are strapped down. And it just radiates through the house. You know, I mean, there's times like I wake up in the morning, I can't go back to sleep because that's all I hear is it's either the backup alarms on their backhoe or they bounce these buckets and you know, it's just incredible.
I also have video, plenty of video of the
till 8, 9 o'clock at night. I have an 11-month-old that gets woken up sometimes because of how late noise is going on.
We've heard it 11 sometimes. The typical is typically every day it's 5:30 in the morning. Last week was when I had finally had it, being woken up at 4:30 in the morning. Not once, but twice. We just can't continue to live this way.
I've seen her outside literally in tears because it bothers her so much. I mean, it bothers her more than it actually bothers me. But I mean, like, I can see what it's doing to her, but it's true, if that stuff is happening, and, you know, it just shouldn't happen. It shouldn't be happening because there's residential people back there, and their homes back there.
And they're right on the fence line too. They're right on the fence line. You can see where, from the road into the neighborhood, you can see past the storage place. They're literally right on the fence line. The fence line is, 75 feet from the back of my house, where they're running heavy equipment for hours on end.
Have we ever been out there for this?
One time,
Yes,
as
yes,
far as I know.
More than that.
One time.
And it's been more than one, I can say that. I don't have the actual number.
And again, then that just leads me to, I've never been notified that they found nothing, they found something, what, you know. When, do you
We'll
know?
follow up on this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just a question on starting at 4 o'clock in the morning. I know for new construction, we have an ordinance for 7 a.m., but for an activity like this, 4 or 5 in the morning.
Well, the problem is, then I don't want somebody coming out at 4:30 in the morning, and that day they just happen to not be out there.
Yeah.
They don't do it every day at 4:30, but I mean, it has happened before,
Right.
you know.
Well, the challenge with enforcing, say, 4:30 in the morning, is that we won't have somebody out there.
Yeah.
So we would rely on, you know, the neighbors, any one or more than one neighbor, doing what you did, using your smartphone and recording this.
With all due respect, one conversation that we had, I offered to come up here and show the video to you so you can hear the noises, and you declined it.
Well, we would also need you then to follow up and go to court with us. Because we didn't see it, you'd have to testify that, yes, this is indeed your phone, yes, indeed, this occurred on this date, you know, you saw that, and that's the only way we could cite somebody for doing that. But we could certainly do that if you're willing, anyone or more of the neighbors are willing to do that.
What if we were willing to, I don't know if it's allowed, so I guess that's the first thing, if we're able to get like drone footage of what's going on over there. Are we able to like physically, like either get a drone and take video of what's going on over there, or is that like a,
We need,
invading their space or something?
in order to, well, first of all, I don't want to get into the drones. I'd rather you stay on your side of the property line and
Okay.
observe. But we can review, well, I think the process that I would recommend would be that the code enforcement officer for the township go out and try to personally observe the things that you're talking about. But we don't do that in the middle of the night. It would be during the day, when they are working.
Right.
Is when they could come out and attempt to observe some of the things that you're complaining about. And if they are not able to personally observe those things, then they could review what you have recorded to see if that meets the standards under the ordinance for a violation. And if it does, then a notice of violation could be issued based upon the information you have provided. But in order for us to successfully prosecute a case on that basis, if the code enforcement officer has not personally observed the activity, we will need a live witness, someone who would actually appear and participate in the prosecution in order to provide evidence that would support a conviction, because otherwise we can't take enforcement action without evidence.
Okay.
Because, you know, there are due
I mean,
process.
I would be willing to back up whatever, you know, whatever we can obtain, you know, that shows that, hey, listen, this is like really happening. I mean, other than calling someone at 4 in the morning and say, hey, listen, yeah, they're at it, I'm gonna run over here real quick. I don't know what, you know what I mean?
And we do get phone calls at all times. I've been out there at midnight, not on this particular one, but another part of the township. There's another area where I've been out there at 6:30 in the morning because new construction is supposed to wait till 7 o'clock and they're not always doing that. And I've been out there talking to them saying, these are the rules. And,
You can hear it all the way down at the bus stop.
yeah.
You can hear it all the way back in the cul-de-sac. That's, I mean, just this morning is not back. It's about 10:07, and you can hear boom and pipes, and, you know, it sounds like somebody's taking a rock and pulling it across metal at times. I mean, it's really bad. We've been complaining about this for years. And this is, you know, this is why we got to this point, because there's no ramifications for this business and the amount of noise they're making. And it's all day long. There's no breaks, not even this past winter, because we had a relatively mild winter.
Well, they do take a break for lunch.
We get about an hour a day.
Now, usually between, you know, 12:15 and 1, it'll be quiet for a while. Because I guess I'm assuming they go to lunch.
Yeah.
Okay, does anyone on the other side have anything they'd like to say? Okay.
I thank you guys for your time.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention. And
Yeah,
something that
everyone.
we need to know.
Yeah, everyone has a right to live in a peaceful setting.
Yeah, I mean, I've lived back there 14 years, which is just a little shy, they've been there a little longer, but, you know, ever since this, it was great until this place went in. And I remember getting a thing, and when it was describing what it was going to be back there, and there was going to be a hearing, we're like, oh, they're going to grow trees for erosion, that's great, you know what I mean? It's, you know, but it didn't work out. I mean, I've never seen a tree back there, you know.
And then I'd like to make a motion for adjournment.
I think that. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. Councilors for the meetings?
Yes, upcoming meetings are Trail Study Committee, it's September 13th. The Harmony Day, of course, is Saturday, 10 until, what time is it every night?
Until 10.
Until 10.
10 for
Well,
the
it's
carnival.
carnival.
Oh, for the carnival, right. And September 18th is Land Preservation Committee, September 20th for Parks and Rec, September 24th, Third Hearing Board, and Thomas Hulse's variance. September 27th, Planning Commission, October 3rd is the public meeting for comprehensive rap.
All right, thank you. Good. Thank you for coming out tonight.
We have another meeting coming up next month with the veterans.
I'll talk to you.